There's an old saying, when America sneezes, the world catches a cold. Well, America is now on life support, which means we're all in trouble. To say America is in the wrong hands is, in my view, an understatement. Here is the increasingly unhinged leader of the House, Nancy Pelosi, reading a poem.
To drive out those old snakes once again. And they struggle for us to be free from the psycho in this human family. Ireland's sorrow and pain is now the Ukraine, and St. Patrick's name is now Zelensky.
What the hell? Bring back Pam Ayres. All is forgiven. Here's the Vice President, Kamala Harris, a woman who terrifyingly is second in command.
A friend in need is a friend indeed.
Okay, I can first.
And where do you start with President Joe Biden? Take a look at this from last year.
But there's, there to be, beginning this effort for 2021 is, I think we've learned a few lessons from last year as well. There's help they're being there to help clear roads, rebuild main streets, and so that the families can get back to their lives.
You are in a position of extraordinary power.
Sleepy Joe strikes again. We'll get a translation of what he said for you later in the show. Having spent $16 trillion, that's right, $16 trillion on their overreaction to the pandemic, that's $50,000 for every American, the US economy is shot to pieces. Unemployment, household debt, fuel prices and interest rates are heading upwards. And inflation, currently running at almost 8%, will likely reach well into 2 digits before the end of the year. For too long now, the great nation of America has been living high on the hog, with the public and the state gorging on borrowed money, which to date has cost the Federal Reserve next to nothing, given America's stellar credit rating and the huge advantage of the dollar being the world's reserve currency. But like so many great empires, the US has begun to sow the seeds of its own destruction. America has been caught napping, asleep at the wheel. Decades of underinvestment and short-term thinking mean that America's infrastructure, once the envy of the world, is falling apart. Roads, bridges, airports are all creaking with age, just like their president. And America's insatiable diet for borrowed money was the catalyst behind the disastrous credit crunch and global downturn in 2009. But just over a decade later, and nothing has changed. America, a magnificent country, and one I love dearly, has been living high on the hog, on the never-never, and has been focused on jam tomorrow, although they call jam jelly, which is very strange. But the whole American project is beginning to wobble, with no smart long-term plan for the future, no vision. All we've got is indulgence, complacence and decay. Compare that to the Chinese, who have built airports, motorways, rail lines, power stations, nuclear plants. They've moved into mineral-rich Afghanistan. They've bought half of Africa. They also own billions of dollars of US debt. What could possibly go wrong? And they have prepared their economy for the 21st century, fueled by Western shoppers paying for consumer products we should be making here ourselves. America's disastrous overreaction to coronavirus, where common sense only prevailed in a handful of states like Florida, has accelerated this great country's decline and potentially gifted control of the world to China. China taking over as the world's predominant superpower should have been decades away, but now it's just years, if they haven't won already. Why is this a problem? Well, for all of those America haters out there, and there are too many, be careful what you wish for. America is a beacon of diversity, innovation, creativity, freedom and democracy. But the leader of the free world, the US president, is about to hand the baton to a cruel, heartless and ruthless totalitarian dictatorship. One which tortures and murders its own people, crushes dissent, which gave us COVID and lied in the early days of the pandemic. China is a country with no free press, no political discourse, no criticism of the state, no elections. They back Russia's evil invasion of Ukraine, of course, and place no value on human life. Do you really want these guys in charge? Soon, I fear the independent country of Taiwan will be another jewel in their crown. If America falls, we all do. Do you think the bumbling EU are going to save us? Good luck with that. And look at the state of the United States. Divisive identity politics mean that people are more worried about their pronouns than their future, letting biological men thrash women in the swimming pool. Take a look at this ridiculous photograph. It's a scandal, and it's just plain embarrassing. We now have an America that has junked its values of personal liberty. This amazing story as well will shock you. The Health Commissioner of New York has announced 5-year-olds should wear masks forever. Well, it's not New York anymore, is it? It's New Beijing or New Pyongyang. America's great institutions are in the full grip of a woke takeover, with universities teaching something called critical race theory, which essentially says that homeless drug addicts with barely $1 in their pocket have white privilege. Racism is the most evil thing imaginable, and America has a shameful history on that one. It must be addressed, but not by giving in to the hard-left communist outfit of Antifa, the toxic and corrupt group behind Black Lives Matter, who disgracefully stole a great slogan that few would disagree with. They want to break up the nuclear family, end capitalism, and defund police forces, which, surprise, surprise, when enacted, has caused an explosion in crime. America's great cities, Los Angeles, New York, Seattle, and many others, are dying on their feet. Hundreds of thousands of homeless people are living in tent cities across the country, openly shooting up on streets which were once posh boulevards, all strung out on spice, heroin, and crack cocaine. And America's democracy is in crisis too. We had the disgraceful and violent assault on Capitol Hill on January the 6th, 2021. And with question marks around postal voting, millions of Americans are unsure they can actually believe any result that happens now. Would Joe Biden have become president if the liberal US media had properly investigated the contents of that laptop and Biden Jr., Hunter Biden, and his alleged links to the Kremlin? You tell me. Which takes me to Biden Sr. Senior being the operative word. The Democratic Party should hang their heads in shame that they selected this decrepit man to lead the free world. This is a guy who gets lost going into his own house and who thinks Russia invaded Iran. But he's not responsible for the long-term decline of America. America's wars, for example, have been a disaster for decades. Vietnam, Syria, Libya, Iraq, of course, and latterly Afghanistan have come at a needless cost of money, lives, and fermented hate. America's disastrous exit from Afghanistan established the theme of surrender, which is now American foreign policy. America is also in the grip of a public health crisis, with over 60% of adults overweight or obese. The US is not fighting fit. Even their soldiers and cops are too fat to serve. To me, it's all a question of leadership and statecraft. Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, Nancy Pelosi, is that the best they've got? America is a great country and it can bounce back. And here in the UK, we need them to. A rejuvenated Britain, freed from the clutches of the EU, should once again inspire this great nation that we ourselves founded. We need to return to that special relationship, an umbilical and emotional connection between two great and powerful freedom-loving democratic nations. Like when these two presided over an economic miracle and the end of the Cold War. That's right, Thatcher and Gorbachev, of course with the help of Reagan. So all of that can only be achieved with great leadership. The next president will arguably be the most important in America's recent history. They've got to get this right, because America is fighting for its position of global preeminence. If America wants to keep calling itself the greatest country in the world, it's going to have to start acting like one. We need someone to enter the White House who, to coin a phrase, can make America great again.